Hello everyone and welcome back to the Esports Weekly. Adanas joined by Fdot and Hinduman once again. There's no more Pro League though. We're not going to be discussing that. It's going to be the Super Regionals and Smite World Championship. That's the only thing left we have to talk about for Season 2. 12 teams out at Super Regionals, 2 regions, 6 days. 5 teams are going to come out on top. To start things off though, let's congratulate the 2 teams that have already qualified for Worlds. Coming out of Oceania, Avant-Garde qualified live at PAX Australia just about a week and a half ago. Myself, Brandon, Hughes, Nightfall, and Hughesy were all there to cast that. Great games. You can see Jobs there with the team. They're pretty excited.
And that's just Avant-Garde season as a whole. I mean, the Australian SPL went great for them as well. And now look at how they've gone straight into the World Championship. So good luck to them there.
Coming out of Latin America, it was hi-rez Gaming that actually came out on top. Just like Avant-Garde, this was the team that went undefeated in their pro league. And these players, they've been studying. I've actually been getting questions from their teams to like get demos and recordings from NA and EU teams for the past couple months or so. I mean, this team has been preparing not only for regionals but for Worlds already.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have been a strong force in their own region. They've got a gaming house with a lot of the members that are sitting there, so they take it really seriously. You know, when you watch these guys, you'll see a lot of the thought processes are really on par with some of the top end teams. The mechanics might have to play a little bit of catch up, but I think that this team will surprise a lot of people in Worlds.
Let's see how both these teams do. But that's it for the other regions, guys. Actually, no, sorry.
Brazil.
Brazil will also be qualifying their team this weekend, Saturday, November 14th, and that's going to be live on twitch.tv/SmiteLU. That's going to be the Portuguese stream, and then I will be doing an English stream with a to-be-determined caster on twitch.tv/SmiteGame2. So if you don't speak Portuguese or you want to hear myself or just kind of the English language over it,
I'd rather use this to anything than you. So.
Are you going to do it with me?
I probably will now, I guess. Just to
all right, guys, let's talk about Super Regionals, though. That's going to be coming up November 17th. We're going to be starting with the North American side. And once again, guys, this tournament, the format, it's a little bit different. It's basically 2 tournaments in one, and the days are going to alternate. Starting Tuesday, though, is NA.
Tuesday is going to be all NA. Quarterfinal matchups is when that's going to happen. Then the semi-finals, they'll take place for NA on the Thursday. And then obviously Saturday and Sunday, you'll also see some other games there as well, which we'll get to a little bit later on. But North America, alternate days, they'll be the ones starting off the tournament for us.
Yeah, so we'll be first looking at some of the North American teams, as we said, the quarterfinals, TSM versus Enemy, etc. But like Kevin said, we'll be weaving in and out. So why don't we take a look at the European brackets as well, this time starting on the right side. That's where the quarterfinals are going to be, and they'll feed into the top number 1 and number 2 teams, which have the bye into semifinals. Epsilon and Fnatic are 1 and 2 respectively, and then, of course, you've got your finals.
Now, those 5th place matches are best of 1s. The 3rd place going to be best of 3s, but everything in the upper bracket are all going to be best of 5. So, I mean, these are going to be some pretty long games, but the important thing is going to be the wild card bracket. Now, the 3rd place teams from both regions will advance into the finals of the wild card bracket, where they will face off in a single best of 3. Now, both regions have secured 2 spots to Worlds based on the 2 teams that get to the finals, but the 5th spot will be between NA or U. It could be either one. So one region will have an advantage going into Worlds. There's going to be a little bit of nationality pride going on, too.
Not really, because the U's going to win, so.
Just a little bit of banter.
There's no banter, it's just the truth. Like, we've all seen Epsilon, so why were you doing this even?
You know what, if you want to see North America beat Europe live at the Smite World Championship,
don't come to the Smite World Championship, because it's not going to happen.
At swc.smitegame.com, there's going to be 10 teams, 5 regions, $1 million on the line. In addition to getting the ticket for just purchasing and getting the ticket, you also get the digital loot pack, which has an assortment of things ranging from Zeus to an
amazing firework. That's what you need to know. The firework is awesome.
Yeah, so you've got the Zeus skin, you've got the Anubis skin, you've got the firework, of course, Curse Agni as well, and you buy this in-game, by the way. You can buy it with gems, and it's right there in the store. So it's 1,300, and that gets you everything on the board.
The big thing at the bottom, Divine Chest as well, which would give you a rare skin of some sort as well, thrown in that too. So not too shabby for 1,300 gems.
All right, let's break down these matchups, though. The first matchup we're going to be seeing on the North American side is Team Solo Mid taking on Enemy. And this is the 4th and 5th seed. TSM, you look at them, and it's kind of like, I guess both these teams, right? TSM's kind of the story of a team that underperformed. Enemy's kind of the story of a team that overperformed. TSM, a lot of roster changes. They were the 3rd place team at SWC last year, struggling a lot in the fall split.
Did very well at the regionals last time too as well, the last LAN we held here. So not a bad situation for TSM. They won it, exactly. They had a good
summer
time.
Finals.
But after the Pro League, 14-14, it's not a great storyline for them. Meanwhile, across the way, their opponents, Enemy, 13-15, so only 1 game behind them coming out of SPL.
Right, and Enemy really had success earlier on in the season. As we sort of saw the season come to a close, we didn't really see the same level of play out of Enemy. And I mean, the same could be said about Team Solo Mid. They made the swap. They took out their star player of Divios and replaced it with Bickham, who has big shoes to fill. And while I don't think he's really struggled or underperformed, I think he has yet to really fill those shoes.
Yeah, he's only had a couple weeks in the role.
Exactly.
And that, you know, might be a lot of harm to him too. He just hasn't really had the full Pro League experience. He did take part in the Omen Challenge though, which probably isn't the same competitive-wise, but just being there at a LAN probably helped him a lot.
Yeah, we saw that with the COG Invitational. Some of the teams, as you said, might be not on the same level as competition as the regular season, but the teams getting the chance to gel together is just as good.
I think the big key here for me is going to be, I'm going TSM all the way with this, just because of LAN experience, which is a huge factor. Only Pain Divion on the side of Enemy have ever been to a LAN before. Yes. 4 rookies coming into a LAN against an experienced side at TSM who've been to this venue as well before. So
it's been a while since Pain's been to a LAN as well. I think he hasn't been to a single LAN this year. It was all back in 2014. So
just on LAN experience, but then even if you take that into account as well, there's still TSM who have defeated 4-0 Enemy. The only team that they defeated 4-0, if I'm correct.
Yes.
This whole split. So on paper, it looks all TSM.
Yeah, exactly. Going from basically the 2 metrics of how they performed in the regular season, sweeping this team, and then lack of LAN experience on the side of Pain Devion's team. I think this one goes to Team Solo Mid. I think that's pretty cut and dry.
Across the board, guys, we've got Team Solo Mid. Enemy probably a little bit too inexperienced coming into this one, and TSM, even with the roster changes, still just so scary. It always has a chance to I wouldn't say upset, but they always have a chance at LAN no matter what. I feel like this team is so experienced, and if they ended up winning, they're actually going to be facing off against Envy. They're going to be the #1 seed in the team that the winner of that game is going to advance into. And Envy, you know, they had such a good start, I would say, to the fall split, and you look at their season as a whole, right? Coming out of the spring, winning the spring finals, getting to 3rd place, I believe, during the summer finals, and then going 13-1 in the first half of the fall split. But in the second half of the fall split, it's been a little bit different. 7-7 in their last 14 games.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of a shift as far as the success of this team, and a lot of it came from the meta. I think a lot of people pointed to. A lot of people saw that Cyclone Spin wasn't able to do what he had done previously for the team, and I think it's a little bit of that we saw the struggles, and also the team getting a little bit comfortable in their spot. And by comfortable, I don't mean complacent. I just mean willing to experiment. So we saw the Kepri jungles. We saw the things like that, which, for the record, I don't exactly dislike. It's just a matter of the execution.
No, I don't think they actually hurt the team at all. I think what's happened though is that the other teams are caught onto the meta that was technically over in NA designed by Envy. They ran these compositions and they worked out really well for them. But then other teams caught on, like Cloud9 for example. Camp Solo Lane put Baskin ahead. They did that too, you know. And then as time's gone on, everyone's worked out how to deal with Envy, and they've started to struggle now because of it.
I think a lot of it has to do with people have kind of figured out Cyclone Spin. They may not be able to beat him all the time, but at the very least, they don't let him get ahead. And now,
hold on, because like Cyclone's died first blood quite a lot in his lane just lately. In the last few games that we saw, a lot of the solo laners have actually been able to take him out 1v1. Maybe he's been a little bit over the aggressive too much.
So, one question before we move on to the next matchup. Do you guys see, assuming TSM advances, since that's all we all suggested, do you think Envy beat TSM? Do you think they qualify for Worlds?
I emphatically say yes.
Hindu?
3-2.
They qualify?
3-2.
Oh, you.
It's 3-2. For me, NA is just so difficult to call, honestly.
That's fine.
3-2 one way, I expect, with the TSM Envy game, because TSM performed so well the last
It's going to be close.
Too. 3-2.
It's going to be close.
I'm saving mine for later.
All right, moving on. The lower side of the North American bracket, Cloud9 going to be taking on Cognitive Gaming. C9 coming in as the 3rd seed, but honestly, we were discussing this a little bit early. They kind of feel like the 1 seed in North America right now. They had a lot of struggles earlier on in the split that we all kind of understand, and people are kind of like, all right, they lost some games they probably shouldn't have. But heading into the second half of the split, they looked so strong, finding 2 wins against the number 1 seed, Envy, at the end of it.
And I mean, you say 2 wins, and it's hard to really illustrate what those 2 wins were. I mean, we saw Cloud9 just stomp Envy. We're talking 15, 20,000 gold differentials. It was very strong performance by the guys on Cloud9. I think these guys have sort of came back to where they once were. We saw them, don't forget, this team had a roster change, and a pretty dramatic one at that. You're losing Omega, who's a frontliner, to a Baskin, who's not so much the same role.
I feel like we can stop talking about that now. Like, I agreed,
exactly.
like, halfway through the split, but, like, after they ended up winning, Cloud9 ended up winning the COG Invitational, it was like, Baskin has made the transition.
Well,
the team made the transition.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's where I was getting at, was the sense that that's what we talked about earlier in the season, and there were some struggles that were game-related and some that weren't. And now, at the end of the season, this is what Baskin looks like. This is what the team looks like when it's unified. They've had that chance. They've baked in the oven, so to speak, and now they're here. There is no new guy on the squad anymore. It's been a whole split. The team is adjusted. Baskin is adjusted. This team is dynamite.
There is two games separating Cloud9 and Envy. Eager sitting between them. Eager sitting between them. That's how close Cloud9 were to a potential number 1 seed. Take into account their whole season so far, Cloud9 for me are the number 1 team in NA right now.
They're going to be facing off against COG a little bit. Let's discuss COG a little bit further. You mentioned earlier when we were discussing this matchup that you don't believe that Cloud9 are sweeping this at all. And all we've done so far is talk of Cloud9. Yeah. Tell me where you think that COG is going to come back and at least be able to win a game.
COG has the potential, like I always say, I mean, I don't really like to count these guys out. And every single game they play, whether it's SPL or otherwise, they get better. Because, again, I'm going to say it, don't forget, this team was created day 1 of the SPL. So they've only gone up. They've got a lot of veterans on their team. You're looking at people like DJ Pernicus, the best, Aurora. These guys have been around the block. I don't think, despite how dynamite Cloud9 is, I don't think COG lays down. I think one of these games, picks and bans go the way of Cognitive Gaming, and they wind up taking a game away. Now, do I see Cognitive coming up on the upside of things? Maybe not, but I do think it's possible. I think this most likely goes 3-1 the way of Cloud9, but that 1 is very important.
The big key is, like you said, picks and bans is the biggest key about this game. For Cognitive to have a good game, they need to win picks and bans and do very well in it, as well as the first 9 minutes of the game. If the first 9 minutes of the game do not go well for them, I do not see them taking a game off Cloud9. If they do have good picks and bans in the good first 9 minutes, there's chances. Not enough to win it, though, I don't feel.
Fdot, I feel like you kind of illustrated it best, although you didn't intend to. Cognitive Gaming was formed at the beginning of this split. Cloud9 are last season's world champions.
They're potentially looking for back-to-back world
Potentially looking for back-to-back worlds. Cloud9 across the board. The winner of this game, though, going to be facing off against Eager. Really kind of the stars, I would say. The biggest name that has happened during the fall split, their rise. You know, this is the team that back when they were known as Team Dignitas back in, like, before Season 1. In the preseason, they were the dominant force in North America. They've had such a long fall back down into the Challengers Cup in the spring split, found their way back into the SPL during the summer split, and then coming into the fall, they went from a team that was kind of even, right? They were like 5th place, they had an even record, into number 2 in North America. What are you looking at this team immediately? Who are the players that we think are going to excel at LAN?
I mean, the players that are going to excel at LAN right away, I'm looking at Danica and Lazes. Danica has really been the consistent piece of this squad during the regular season. You can generally always expect to see something exciting coming out of the jungle. And Laz is a strong player in his own right, but he's always been somebody that steps up the extra notch when it comes to live LAN play, and we got a sort of glimpse of that at the Cognitive Invitational. We saw some of the best Poseidon play ever at that COG LAN. So coming into that, with that in mind, I think that Lazes and Danica are the 2 players that really step it up for this one in particular. And then you just can't forget that you have a Zapman and a world champion solo lane Omega as well on the squad.
The big key for me here is how eager at the start of this split, when we were at 4 teams for LAN, we were talking about them fighting with Denial for the 4th spot. the whole way through. They found themselves second here with a bye through the first round, and they're probably going to have to face off against Cloud9. It's really rough.
It's
for me, I can't. That's the only game I will not 100% call. I said 3-2 either way.
You did that last time, though.
This one's completely.
I have a quick question. Something that was made public recently is that the scrim partners that everyone knows that happens in both scenes have actually kind of switched up in North America most recently. Envy is actually now scrim partners with Cloud9 primarily, although I believe they kind of scrim outside a little bit. And Team Solo Mid and Eager are now scrim partners. How do you feel like this is going to affect both teams, Cloud9 and Eager?
I think with Cloud9, it'll help them a lot more against Envy to even continue to grow. I think Cloud9, we feel, at least I feel, are probably the strongest team in the region right now. So it's actually helping Envy probably more than it is going to be helping Cloud9. Whereas TSM, they're a strong established team that have been around for a long time. Eager can still learn things from them. Even though like Eager are the established team that have been around for a very long time, there's still plenty of things you can always pick up and learn. And changing transitions with different metas and different teams that you face off against, very effective to learn those things.
I'm gonna ask the same question. We all said Cloud9 across the board for the earlier matchup on this side of the bracket. I'm gonna ask the same question. Cloud9 versus Eager. If that's the match we see, who do we have?
Remember in the first matchup how I said I was saving my I don't want to commit answer? This is what I was saving it for. Because I think it's actually very interesting. I think that Cloud9 is probably a stronger team than Eager.
Okay.
Not by much, but I think that with that said on the board, when it comes to time to play game, I think that Eager has a higher potential upside than Cloud9. Does that make sense? Like, so I think that
they have a wider swing, right? When they are on, they're better than Cloud9. The question is, can they get to that point?
Exactly. I think if both of these teams go neutral, you have a very close 3-2. It's anyone's guess. But if Eager overperforms like we've seen them do at LAN, I think this one honestly winds up going to Eager.
Cannot call it one way or the other. One thing I can say though is whoever loses this game will be in the wildcards match.
You think they'll beat whoever's on the top side of loser?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
I'll give you that. Even if Envy falls?
Even if Envy falls.
Yep.
Ooh, okay. We got that one from Hindu. We got that one out of Hindu. All right, moving on to Europe, though, guys. We're going to start with London Conspiracy taking on Titan. We've kind of said struggling a lot, but I would say Titan fits struggling more than anyone. They ended up winning the summer split, but during the entirety of Season 2, we've looked back, they haven't beat a single top 4 team. They have not 2-0'd a single top 4 team outside of Epsilon during iRapper's ban phase.
It's been a while, but the one thing that's come for them is LC. They have beaten LC. Now, that's a good sign because they're up against London Conspiracy this time round for a very, very important matchup. And the worst thing is both these teams have to face each other first of all, which I think is a pretty even match on paper. Titan definitely has more LAN experience than London Conspiracy. However, whoever wins this has to face Epsilon.
Exactly.
It's like
that's where my analysis comes from. We're taking a look at these two teams.
Matter who wins.
Exactly. I think it's very quickly. Titan beats London Conspiracy. They've done it in the past. They'll probably do it again. There's LAN experience on the side of Titan. I think we can just run through our bullet points real quick, and then we'll move on to Epsilon and say it doesn't matter.
I don't think so. I'm looking over here at Hindu, man.
I've got LC.
He's shaking his head. He's got LC.
I've actually gone LC.
Okay,
the way LC's performed throughout the season has just got continuously stronger. And the picks and bans of Titan have just not worked out that well for them. Yeah. From when I've been looking through everything to do with these two teams for the Super Regionals. I'm sat there like, I have to favor LC.
Sure.
When you look at their most picked gods of LC, they have positive win ratios.
Sure.
When you look at that of Titan, they have negative win ratios.
If you said Thor was the big one?
I think Thor is 3 games won out of 11.
That is
and he's been
insane.
Consistently picked up in the jungle, and he's got like a 55-56% win ratio, I believe, in the SPL, something crazy like that.
Yeah, you know what?
So,
I agree.
It's those things.
LC.
You can't go changing now.
You can't go changing. You committed. I committed to Titan too. I do think that this is going to be a 5-game series. Either way it goes.
I agree.
Much like you believe over in North America at the top side, I think this one is going to be all 5 games, and I think a lot of it's going to come down to shot calling and motivation, not necessarily like the individual or mechanical skill. I know Emilzy is very big. He actually posts videos all the time of like his late game shot calls and team fights and how important they are. And if you say the wrong thing, if you call the wrong thing, if you are on the wrong target, sometimes you just lose a team fight, and that's the game. So there's going to be a lot of close situations in that one. Moving on, though, the winner of this is going to have the pleasure of facing the 27-1 Epsilon. I mean, that's the 27-1 Epsilon.
And that's why I was so like, yeah, sure, I'll switch. Because I don't...
Yep.
Whoever wins gets to lose to Epsilon.
Wow.
And whoever wins also gets to be fourth because they're not going to go into the wildcard matchup either.
Exactly. So
that's my. I don't think they're going to be able to take on the other side. And Epsilon, they're seeing an absolute destructive force. Nobody can discount. Look at the MVP voting, for example. The MVP voting right now is 5 members of Epsilon from EU. Nobody else is even in contention.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Exactly. That's why I was so wishy-washy with the last matchup. I think that, whoever wins gets to lose to Epsilon in 3 games.
Oh, I don't know. You're right. I was gonna. No, I don't think it's gonna.
No, someone will win a game. Oh man, that's unfortunate.
I don't know. We've been saying that all season long, and the only one that managed to do it was Fnatic towards the end of the season. So I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and Fnatic, the win they had was a very snowbally win as well. I mean, Epsilon right now, this team is so good across the board, and adapting arguably the best player in the world. I mean, it was at the beginning of the split, it was kind of like who's better, right? Adapting or Cyclone Spin, and Cyclone Spin has kind of really like fallen off. He hasn't had the same success, and now adapting is. Yeah. In my opinion, the best player in the world
It was close for Andy to be player of the world for me from NA, but it's not even close to adapted. I think I'd like to see those two face off.
His mechanics,
but we'll probably see that at Worlds more than likely if everything goes well.
Adapting his mechanics are so good. Not even going to bother because we already kind of answered it. No matter what team comes out of this one, it's Epsilon. Epsilon is realistically, in my opinion, going to be winning.
Unless somebody eats McDonald's and gets food poisoning, or their flight gets cancelled. Or actually, I think 2 members of the team's flights need to be cancelled for this team not to advance. That's what I'm saying.
The Barracuda Big Mac breakdown.
They can't even scrounge up 5 members to compete.
They don't even need 5. I think they could do it with 4.
You know something we haven't mentioned?
So here's the thing. Just for fun, if Epsilon do have 1 person missing, they get Young Bay. Oh no, it's Young Bay.
What are they going to do? Emelito can pretty much play any role anyway, so they just put Young Bay in AD carry and all's good.
Exactly.
Moving on, though, to the bottom side of the European bracket, guys. Paradigm versus Dignitas. Dignitas, yeah.
They tried.
Okay, Dignitas have had a good run towards the end of the season since we talked about top 6 come. They still didn't manage to break out of the 6th position, however, and they're going to walk into a Paradigm lineup that are going to be hungry, really hungry. They realize that the likelihood of them getting to Worlds, they have to go through Dignitas, Fnatic, to make it there, or the wildcard spot as well, which would be against NA. And NA performances for Paradigm haven't been the greatest as of late. In the last 2 regionals we saw them at, they struggled against North American teams. They won't want to go for the wildcard spot. They have to get through Dignitas first, but I think Dignitas could take a game because of their picks and bans, where they're very, very interesting in terms of like the picks they'll pull out, like Kukulkan.
Sure.
You know, they'll pull something out a bit crazy like that may work for them. And if they can get 1 game out of that, that'll be a good start for Dig if it's early, but I don't think it's going to be enough to take it off Paradigm.
Exactly. And you guys know how much I have loved watching this Dignitas team. I have supported them for a lot of the season, the latter half of the season, because we've got to see players legitimately improve. A lot of times you don't get to see that. Variety has gone from being one of my sort of like targets and has now really risen to like a player that definitely helps this team out. Shadow Nightmare has always been there. I like this Dignitas team, but unfortunately Heart doesn't win tournaments. And
only 2 of these members have been on a 4 members have been to LAN, but only 2 of them have ever been to LAN together. Yeah. The others, all the team have never. Well,
Shadow Nightmare and Frostiak back when they were the Fnatic squad at last year's regionals.
has never ever been. Frezzy went at Mortality Days, and at the same time we also saw Variety do that for Coast as well. So Variety is probably the one with the most experience of success, although to be fair, Shadow Knight, actually all 4 of them have had some success at LAN with different teams.
Yeah, because Shadow Nightmare and Frostiak were on the Fnatic, which was then Exposed Secrets. They won the Team Suleiman Invitational back in Season 1.
So they've had, and Frezzy was on Mortality, who had a very, very good run for a long time there too. So they've got the experience, but I don't think it's enough against this Paradigm lineup.
Exactly. I mean, Paradigm, they won the launch tournament. They've been in almost every single LAN since then, right? You look at Worlds last year, they were here. You look at the Spring Finals, Summer Finals. They wind up coming to LAN. They wind up looking strong, and this is a team that they've been around the block. They know what they're doing. They're a long core of a team, and as the regular season ended, we saw them get stronger. Paradigm. So I think that exactly what I said before. I love Dignitas. I love how much they care about the game, but Heart doesn't win tournaments. Eventually, you've got to get strong Ws, and I think Paradigm just winds up being flat out the stronger team over Dig.
Paradigm across the board, guys. We're looking at them to advance. I think this is going to be a pretty one-sided victory. Much like the Cloud9 versus COG, we're looking at the 3 and 6 seeds kind of being a sweep with maybe one game being taken. But the winner of this match is going to have to go up and face off against the European, like forever now, powerhouse in Fnatic. This team has not changed their roster in quite some time, and they're even able to take out top teams with their sub Ependary when need to.
Yep.
They're coming to LAN. They've actually struggled this year at LAN. The last two LANs they've been at, the summer finals and spring finals, they had to face a very strong team solo mid roster that they lost to in the first round in both tournaments. This time, they don't have to face TSM. It's going to be the winner of the last match. How are you feeling about this team?
Fnatic, well, first of all, if they face Dignitas, they win. And if they face Paradigm, that's really where the conversation is. And I think, judging from our last points, that's really the conversation to have. But Fnatic in a vacuum, they're one of the strongest teams in the world. I love the way that their team is broken down. You can see the individual roles of the individual players and how it really comes together. Reels is in a conversation of his own for being one of the better hunters, I think.
I mean, he was the Summer Split MVP.
Exactly.
For all of Europe, not even his role, just all of Europe, he was the Summer Split MVP.
Yeah, and that's almost expected from Marcus at this point. You almost expect him to really step up to that level, and we've seen Zeros just be one of the most dominating middle laners in Europe. I mean, sometimes the conversation is Zeros over Epsilon's Yaman. So I think that Fnatic winds up being, I think that the 1 and 2 seeds are probably the most accurate seedings we have in the world. I think that Epsilon and Fnatic are very easily 1 and 2 of their region, and Fnatic coming into this, like I said, without talking about the matchup, Fnatic is an extremely difficult team to beat.
And Fnatic's past performances against Paradigm tell the story that it should be a Fnatic victory here. However, LAN performances Fnatic as of late, we said, haven't been the best or as strong as they used to be. They used to be LANimals, we used to say that, but after the last performances hasn't really shown through. They're going to have to step it up here because, like I said about Paradigm, neither one of these two teams, I expect to be Fnatic Paradigm, and the loser will go to the wildcard match to face off against North America. And I think both of them will not want to have to face a North American team for the wildcards because there's a stumbling block there, I feel, for them, depending who gets through.
I mean, North America has historically gotten the better of Europe in most best-of-3 or best-of-5 matchups for the past, I believe, 2 years. There was the launch tournament, where obviously the European TSM won. They won. That's correct.
It was largely Paradigm.
Yeah, and then the last, and then since then, the only best-of-3 or best-of-5 that Europe won against North America was actually at the summer finals, where Paradigm beat Cloud9, although a Barracuda-less for the first 2 games because he had food poisoning.
Well, listen, we've been in second gear for a while. You won't know much about gears because you all drive automatics over here, but like we've just been sat in second gear. Now it's like let's just bump straight up to 4th.
Season 1 wasn't good enough.
Happen.
Season 1 wasn't good enough.
That's what's going to happen. We're going to bump straight up to 4th, and it's like Season 2. Here we go, boys.
ABC drive stick.
All right, guys. So Fnatic, do you have them beating either team that comes out of that bottom bracket?
Is
Paradigm?
Right. They'll beat Dig 3-0. If they face off against Paradigm, it'll be 3-2.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
So Fnatic advancing to Worlds is what
and
we've got.
Paradigm probably against Eager.
Quick,
that'll be interesting.
Quick hypothetical. Let me break it down. Who are your 5 Worlds team? Hinduman, you go.
Okay, Epsilon, Fnatic. Oh, you put me on the spot.
I did.
Envy, Cloud9.
Wildcard.
TSM or Paradigm.
Ooh.
So not TSM or Paradigm, Eager or Paradigm.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Tom?
Epsilon Fnatic.
Okay.
I think those are easy peasy. Epsilon Fnatic, Eager for the bottom, and then Envy has to play. Envy has to
either
play
TSM or enemy. Come on.
TSM.
Okay.
And then wildcard, Paradigm beats Envy.
All right, you heard it here, guys. For more information on the Super Regionals or anything Smite Esports, be sure to visit esports.smitegame.com. There's lots of links. You're going to be able to research all the teams and see the full brackets and, more importantly, the breakdown on the days, because it will be 6 days of competition starting November 17th to November 22nd. It's going to be on Tuesday. We are going to be casting Smite games from Tuesday until Sunday. 12 teams, 5 world spots. That's going to do it for the Esports Weekly, though. We'll catch you next time.